Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, MMA Fighter scores the fastest finish in MMA history with a 1-second KO. Israel Adesanya swaps Dricus Du Plessis for Sean Strickland for his next title defense. Islam Makhachev vs Charles Oliveira announced for UFC 294, and GSP will face Damian Maia at the UFC Fight Pass Invitational. MMA Fighter scores the fastest finish in MMA history with 1-second KO. When the 4-second KO by Jorge Masvidal seemed impossible to replicate, an MMA fighter competing for Titan FC scored a 1-second KO. Just 1 second into their Titan FC 83 bout, Luis Hernandez smashed his left foot to Brian Topp's head, immediately sending his opponent to the Shadow Realm before landing follow-up strikes while the referee waved off the fight. The Miami-based fighter set up the blow by distracting Top as he held his right hand out in a sign he wanted to touch gloves in a customary glove touch, before withdrawing his hand and landing the killer shot. So since the knockout was officially announced as coming 1 second into the fight, it beat the UFC's record set by Jorge Masvidal when he starched Ben Askren in just 5 seconds back in 2019. But some fans believe it should be accompanied with a big asterisk, arguing that it took more than just 1 second, according to MMA website Tapology. It was 3.5 seconds by our stopwatch from referee signaling the start of the fight from getting in between them to end it, so we've entered it as 3 seconds. Also, there were a lot of MMA personalities questioning the fake glove touch. But to be fair, Hernandez was known for starting most of his fights with the same kick, so perhaps Top should have done his homework. Hernandez had already ended the first 2 fights of his career in the first round, but even he probably never dreamed of finishing a fight as quickly as he did against Top. He technically didn't break any rules, proving there's a good reason why fighters are always told to protect themselves at all times. It was the 26-year-old's third first-round KO in as many pro fights as he improved his undefeated MMA record to 3-0. And plenty of fight fans will be looking forward to his next bout after that unbelievable performance. Israel Adesanya swaps Dricus Du Plessis for Sean Strickland for his next title defense. All signs were pointing to UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya defending his belt at UFC 293 against highly touted South African fighter Dricus Du Plessis. But for now, that may have been blown apart, as Adesanya published a social media video ripping into DDP for apparently pulling out because of a sore foot. Having defeated Robert Whittaker, Du Plessis was planned to be the next challenger to Adesanya at UFC 293 on September 10 in Sydney, but the finalization of that fight has yet to happen. That may be because Adesanya's accusations that Du Plessis is injured. The last stylebender said on Twitter,
I don't even know how to start this, bro. Dricus Du Plessis. You fucking bitch. Oh, all you had to do was put on some gloves. I was ready to go again. No, you weren't. You're a bitch. That's why you're not taking this fight. Your foot sore. Nigga, my knee was jacked 2 weeks from my last fight. Guess what I did? I showed up because that's what a fucking champion does. Championship caliber. Built different.
The plan is that he will be replaced by Sean Strickland on the September 9 card. However, Strickland would be open to fighting Adesanya, but only for a good price. Having just fought a couple of weeks back, he is estimated to have about 8 weeks to prepare, and Sean Strickland is demanding to get paid. He said to Helen Yee,
I don't think Dricus is that good. I think Izzy beats Dricus. I understand Dricus. Dricus, I understand you, Dricus. It is very natural just to fight, which I just fought like a week before you, and then to be like, hey, you want to fly across the world to go fight a guy on 7 weeks' notice. It is very natural to say, I might not want to do that. But I'm a f***ing man. I'm not a If you pay me, I have a price. You pay me money, I'll f***ing fight him right here.
An official announcement is no doubt imminent. Islam Makhachev vs Charles Oliveira announced for UFC 294. After lots of contemplation about who would be his next opponent, Islam Makhachev has now agreed to rematch Charles Oliveira in Abu Dhabi for his second title defense. Dana White announced Makhachev vs Oliveira 2 will headline UFC 294, which takes place on October 21 at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi. Makhachev and Oliveira first fought at UFC 280 in October 2022, and in that fight, Oliveira was defeated by the first-time challenger Makhachev by second-round submission. But Islam versus Charles remains to be a thrilling matchup. Makhachev may have bested Oliveira with ease in their first fight, but since then Oliveira scored a first-round demolition of Beneil Dariush. He then reminded the fans why he is one of the best fighters in the UFC. Charles had originally refused to rematch Makhachev, citing that he needs more time to prepare, but also that he was not comfortable rematching the Dagestani in Abu Dhabi, where Makhachev supposedly has home advantage. It was in Abu Dhabi that he lost for the first time against Makhachev, and now he'd have to fight again in the city if he wants to regain his lightweight championship. Makhachev originally had other plans. He wanted to fight UFC welterweight champion Leon Edwards at UFC 294, presumably at welterweight. He also offered to fight featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski in a rematch. Well, Oliveira is the one the UFC chose. The bout was one of 3 matchups UFC president Dana White announced for UFC 294, with the others being Khamzat Chimaev vs Paulo Costa and Imavov vs Aliskerov. Chimaev vs Costa is a matchup that has long been teased for the October 21 card. With intense beef existing between the two, both fighters would be looking to take each other's heads off, and fans cannot wait. Leon Edwards vs Colby Covington welterweight fight is targeted at UFC 295 on November 11 in Madison Square Garden. Again, UFC president Dana White made more important announcements. He told the media that the promotion is working on Edwards vs Covington to serve as the co-headliner for UFC 295. Edwards has been campaigning for a fight for quite some time now, and hoped to fight in October in the Abu Dhabi card. Yet after the UFC announced Makhachev vs Oliveira 2, the only option was to place him at the co-main event spot of UFC 295 with Jon Jones vs Stipe Miocic. Well, Colby, who has gotten used to fighting in the main event, is a little pissed off that he'd be a co-main event to Jon Jones, considering that they hate each other so much. He said in an interview with Chael Sonnen,
They keep making a big deal out of this 30th anniversary show. Then what better way than to give the gift of us in Madison Square Garden for the 30th anniversary show in New York? You know, they got to stack that card. They can't depend on Jon Jones, and you know better than anyone. He's unreliable. He's unprofessional. He could get popped for steroids. He could do a glass of tequila and some booger sugar up his nose, and he might be beating his wife and in jail again. So who better than to have his insurance policy than Colby Chaos Cup?
this is promising to be one of the best UFC events of the year. GSP will face Damian Maia at the UFC Fight Pass Invitational. In other news, GSP announced his intention to return to competition at the UFC Fight Pass Invitational on December. For a while, he was not certain who he'd face against, but now he has an opponent in a form of Damian Maia. Reacting to news, Maia, who is arguably the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in the UFC history, tweeted at GSP, "Every now and then something comes up that still does really motivate me. Grappling at Georges St-Pierre will be a huge challenge and great motivation. You, GSP, are one of the greatest competitors ever, whom I respect a lot. I'm game. Looking forward to competing at UFC Invitational. This really is one of the best matchups that the UFC Fight Pass could have made for St-Pierre, and it'll be interesting to see whose grappling is sharper between the two all-time greats." Hey guys, if you'd love to continue watching our videos, kindly subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like and comment.